Hey guys, it's Clinton and I'm back. This time we're looking at Gwent. Now, what is Gwent? Gwent is a hot new collectible card game from the Polish developer CD Projekt Red. And as you can see here, it's got a lot of cool artwork, and they're doing an awesome promotion now where if you buy Gwent on PC, PS4, or Xbox One, you will get included with your game a full copy of a brand new single-player RPG called The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. Pretty amazing stuff. This is like a huge RPG that's 200 hours, and it's got a lot of depth and replayability. And it's the first time a company has promoted a traditional single-player RPG off the back of a humble collectible card game. So this is a really cool idea, and okay, sorry guys, bad jokes aside, that's all BS. I mean, it's sort of a reverse situation, so forget what I just said. I was just trying to be funny. Gwent is a thing, but it's a mini game. It's a fully fleshed out mini game that is part of The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, and it's integrated really nicely into the Witcher game. It's when you think of mini games, you think of, okay, just throw away a distraction that's not going to do anything. But Gwent actually got a lot of attention when The Witcher 3 first came out. People got really sucked into collecting cards and building their decks and playing matches against random NPCs, and that's basically how it goes. So right now I'm just browsing through my card collection. I don't have a lot of cards at this point when I record this video. I have a very basic deck. When you play the tutorial early on in the game, you're gonna meet a guy who gives you your first deck, and he plays a match with you, and you get to keep those cards. And then from then on, you're supposed to go around and find random people to play against, like this blacksmith here. I'm gonna play a match against the blacksmith of this small town, of this village. I've been having some good luck against blacksmiths in Gwent. I seem to be able to beat the blacksmiths in this world, but I've bumped into barkeeps and random merchants and noblemen, and those guys have had better decks and better cards. And just like any other minigame in The Witcher 3, you can wager money. At this stage, the most I can wager is 10 orens, with a minimum wager of 1. So we're jumping into a match here. My opponent has a Scoia'tael deck. Scoia'tael, if you don't know, are the elves in the Witcher 3 lore in the world. I'm using the Northern, I think it's called the Northern Alliance. It's a pretty standard deck. It's humans. It's pretty generic, but that's all I have right now. That's most of the cards I have are for that faction. There are 4 factions in total. And I have just a random smattering of cards from other factions. I don't have enough to build new decks, unfortunately. So how it works is you start the game, you get to redraw 2 cards out of your hand of 10. And 10 cards in hand is all you get for the entire match. The match is broken up into 2 rounds, and you have to win 2 out of 3 rounds. So it's a really interesting concept, very simple. It's a lot simpler than Magic. My opponent's going first here. I'm going to try to give you more background on how the mechanics actually work while also commentating on this match. So there are 3 lanes for each player. There's a close combat lane, there's a ranged lane, the one in the middle, that's for archers, and you have the back lane, which is for artillery, things like trebuchets and catapults. So we've already started laying down our cards, and what he's done, he's laid down a melee unit that the ability is muster, so he gets to pull cards with the same name. So 2 extra cards he gets to pull and put them straight into play, which is huge. It's a huge advantage to get more cards into play essentially for free. My deck, my deck is a little bit larger than what's recommended. You're supposed to have a minimum of 22 cards, I think, and right now I'm running 26 cards. And the reason I do that is it seems inefficient, and it definitely is. I just don't have a lot of synergy in my deck, and so to offset that, I just put a few extra cards in that are just good by themselves, and I'm not too worried about like getting the dream hand where I have, you know, a bunch of combos I can fire off or a bunch of cards that work really well together. I can't really rely on that, so I just kind of rely on just putting in solid cards, and as an after effect, I've had to put in a few extra cards. So right now, my opponent has mistakenly passed on his turn. So once you pass, you're done playing for that round, and then you basically wait until your opponent is ready to pass. So I have an opportunity to catch up in points, right, before I pass, and then the round ends. So you see on the left side there where it says passed, he's got the number 12, and below that on my side I got the number 11. These are the victory points, and all you're doing is trying to put cards down and amass enough points collectively to have the highest point value. If you have more points than your opponent at the end of a round, you win that round. And so it counts everything. So whatever cards you put out, whatever lane it is, it's going to add up all the cards and all the lanes on your side, and that's going to be your victory point total. So it's a really simple concept. It's like we're fighting a war. That's the theme of this card game, because we're putting together our army, but we're not actively hitting each other or making, you know, killing units. I mean, there are some cards that will kill units, but it's not as aggressive and antagonistic as, you know, some more traditional Western games, like Magic, for example. You're killing creatures and you're actually hitting the other player. It's not so aggressive that way. So it's very European in a sense, where it's like, sure, there's a war, but all you're doing is trying to get your number higher than the other guys to win. So who won that last round? I was totally blanked out. I think I took that round. Yeah, I took that round, and now we're doing round 2. And yeah, it's very odd for him to pass so early when I still had about the same number of cards as he did in my hand. So right now I'm just I don't really talk too much about how this deck is going for me in this match, but I've drawn a lot of artillery cards. Those are the strongest cards in my deck in terms of just like raw power. My trebuchets and catapults add a lot of points, and then I'm not so good with the close combat units. I don't have a lot of them, and I have some solid ranged cards, and that's about it. There's not a whole lot of synergy at all, so I'm just really relying on good tactical judgments when I play matches against the CPU. So right now I am basically putting a lot of emphasis on my front line, my melee units, and hoping that maybe if he has like a weather effect, he kind of tries to affect that lane and hamper my melee units. But then I actually have in my hand quite a number of strong artillery cards that I want to like put out near the end and surprise him with, and then I can maybe shoot ahead in the points game. But he is just going hard on the range units there. He has quite a lot of points dedicated to that lane, and that is always a risk. As I mentioned, there are these weather cards that will basically affect certain lanes or multiple lanes, and what they do is that they'll reduce the points value of all the cards in that lane to 1. So I could lay down a weather effect card, and it could just reduce everything he has in his middle lane to 1. So you only get like 5 points out of his center lane there. So he played a clearing effect, which if there were weather effects, it would just clear them out all at once. But it's redundant because there's nothing out to clear. There were no weather effects. So I am pretty much ready to finish him off, because I am ahead and he's down to 1 card in hand. And I did a nice synergy there, because those 2 cards, they'll help each other. They'll double the strength of each other. Those 2 guys in the front ranks there. So that's pretty sweet. So I've passed. I'm just letting him play out his hand if he so chooses. So 1 card left. Woo! So I take both rounds. And that's it. That is the basics of Gwent.